Rato already briefly introduced, we're going to be moving on to the Fireside chat with Domingo, Uren, Raso, and Lucas Oberhofer. So thank you, both of us, for joining us today. The floor is yours, guys.
Thanks, David, for the introduction. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you and we can see you very well.
Perfect. To all of our friends and peers joining in, also a very warm welcome from my side. Today is a special honor for me to introduce to you to Domingo Uren Raso, who is joining me for a fireside chat. Domingo is former CEO of Airbus Military, former executive president of Complex Completion in the US, and on top of that, he has been part of several startups developing product and services in the aerospace and defense industry. Domingo, thanks for taking the time to be with us today. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much to give me the opportunity to talk with you guys and to share ideas.
I'd like to kick it off, Domingo, by tapping your brain on an exciting observation we have seen to accelerate in the last few years within the aerospace innovation ecosystem. More and more innovations are established by the collaboration between startups and already well-established players in this industry, leveraging their expertise in certification, development processes, scale production, so on and so forth. With your extensive experience now on kind of both sides of the aerospace, in general, what benefits and challenges do you see for those kind of quite different worlds working together?
So I think in the nowadays, it's indisputable that about the benefit to work in the both sides. Certainly the startups and the new companies is bringing new technologies. We are looking for disruptions, ideas. We are looking for maybe something that the big corporates are very difficult due to the structure. In the other side, you have the big corporations or companies, which is very well established. They have the advantage to have those processes, expertise, certification and qualification, and more than that, to integrate those ideas in a more complex product. So from time to time, as well, they bring the industrialization, and as well, they can bring ideas to the startup to further applications.
I think you can definitely all agree on what you just said, but one step to take it even further is to further accelerate this kind of process. So what steps do both startups and corporates need to do to facilitate and catalyze this product and accelerate it?
So I think both sides, they need to make efforts. Certainly is not one side better than the other. I think that we need to place both in the same level. I will make a point regarding the corporates. Corporate today, they're difficult to go out of the internal box or their internal development centers in one side, and they know that they need the startups. One of the maybe challenge for the corporate is to adapt their current process like procurement, selection of startups and everything in the benefit of the CTOs, of the research centers, of the development centers that they have. So certainly, you try to apply today the procurement system that we have in corporates to this type of startups, which are then most of the ideas will say is intangible ideas because they are not yet consolidated into the complex product. So for me, I think is corporate need to make an effort either way to release or to relieve the responsibility in the CTO development centers, simplify the way to work with the startups. And the startup as well, they need to make an effort to understand that they are going to be in a more organized, process-wise, and certification and qualification support. That normally they don't like it because maybe it looks like that they stop a little bit ideas, but it's needed. So those concepts, they need to be mixed for the corporate, make an effort, simplify this tedious process to qualify as a supplier, gave the freedom to the CTO at the innovation centers to try to work. Not all startup and corporate works, so it's not something that is industrialized and for service production. And for the startup, they need to know that when they go to this corporate, they're going to be followed by process, certification, a certain number of criteria. From time to time, they're unusual for the startups.
Yes, I think we've mainly talked about now those two parties, startups and the corporate side. But for many industries, and the aerospace and defense industry is definitely one of them, there's a third big player involved, which is the government and also the regulatory side. What kind of steps would you imagine can support that further acceleration of these processes you just described?
Well, we cannot both regulatory and governments. So that is something that is embedded in our culture, and I think it should be in that way, because somewhere they secure that what we do is safe, or what we do, it doesn't, impact other things, or maybe the health or whatever. However, today the regulator is normally go slower than the technology and even much slower of the startup. So as well, the regulatory and governments, they need to thinking about how they can evolve faster, how they can support these ideas to achieve at the end the goal, because it doesn't mean that we need to relax the regulatory. I think that we need to support these new ideas, including corporate and including a startup, how we can consolidate faster. From time to time, when we regulate, the technology is gone, or the ideas are gone, because we talk about past. So somewhere, this is as well an effort from the regulatory areas and governments to be as well embarking the boat of innovation and new technologies.
I think the government also plays a crucial role for the next topic I want to dive into, which is kind of this elephant in the room, the biggest challenge I think ever since the Second World War here, all over the world actually, and reflect a little bit about the current COVID-19 situation. The aerospace and defense industry has been one of the hardest hit. We have uncertain times ahead, many corporates and other crucial players announcing budget cutbacks, and the entire industry really slowed to gain momentum, especially on the aviation side. How do you expect the industry to cope with these challenges? And what does this mean for the innovation landscape within the industry?
I think everybody realized, and all of us agree, that we are an unprecedented situation, generally speaking, and more particularly in our industry. And this is something that we cannot avoid. It was unthinkable maybe a few months ago, and we are here in the current situation. So I think, on the other hand, in every exceptional situation that we are living, there as well unprecedented number of opportunities. So it's a check and balance. We face a very critical situation, but I think the imagination and the power of our people, they need to find as well unprecedented ideas to how to reinforce the governments, the industry, and the startup. I think that we understood that we need to adapt our footprint to the situation. This is well understood. We as well want to preserve the knowledge that we have, the expertise that we have, and as well we want to keep our capacity and our startup to continue to work. If it's not means we will die or we will become very old in our industry very fast. So this is as well very well, acknowledged by everybody. So innovation is going to happen, and maybe faster than we thought. In January, we have maybe a path to innovate that it was maybe more conventional, more conservative, and suddenly we have in front of us a situation where we need to accelerate all this innovation thought that we have. An example is digitalization. We thought that it was a way forward for the next years. Now we see digitalization 4.0 and other technologies need to be implemented if we want to survive. way of working. We discovered something that it was maybe 6 months ago, work from home. It was unthinkable in a very limited way to go. Technologies gave us this possibility, and generally speaking, it works much better than everybody thought. Customer relationship, which is very important. We change the way to relation. And technology, by all means, in this moment, we are chasing any idea that we can capitalize in the current situation and reinforce. CO2 reduction. We talk about an horizon which is far away, and everybody was practically thinking, maybe one day, it looks like that today CO2 is recognizing as a tool where everything, new ideas and new technologies can be in. So great opportunities, but as well, very exceptional situation today.
Picking up that opportunity statement you've mentioned, obviously the market there's definitely uncertainties ahead. There's the aerospace industry per se is an industry where there tend to be higher barriers to entry than with other industries. But how do you think, from a startup perspective now, both from startups which are in this field already and currently developing products for the aerospace industry, but also startups who may focus on other industries like automotive and stuff like that? How can they use this current situation now as a chance by maybe implementing innovations from other industries?
So more than ever today, more than ever today, everybody is open to receive ideas. More than ever, big corporations, and it's a great opportunity for a startup, are listening better and listening carefully about all these ideas, because we need to grab all this knowledge and intelligence that we have spread through the startups, and from time to time they need to consolidate in the corporate. So for me, the sensitivity of corporates and startups are greater than maybe a month ago. In the other side, I believe that is the ideas for improvement, more than welcome, ideas to differentiate one company to the other. All of us, we are in a difficult situation. So who is going to succeed? Those one that they have a differentiation, those one that really innovate, those one that they accept new technologies and integrate in their capacities. And for me, more than that, market is going to change. Market is not going to be like it was 6 months ago. So everybody who is awake and listen to the market, I think it's going to be very interesting how we are going to mix startups, corporates, and even a startup direct to the market. Because we face an unprecedented situation that everybody is receptive to receive good news, via innovation, via simplification, or via a relationship.
Interesting point, Domingo, you've picked up before, is that in these uncertain times where, again, momentum is slowly picking up, some other drivers are defining the market. Government seems to be kind of an anchor in these challenging times. And now we want to transition now away from the current situation and maybe implement and have a deeper and more detailed look into defense for a minute. Mm-hmm. If you think of future European defense projects or programs like FCAS in Spain, France, and Germany, what do you think will their effects on this startup corporate relationship be?
So before talk about politics, because it's a nice subject in Europe, one of the big points that the startup have is visibility. And visibility today, I think they can be bring via this type of starburst or this type of things where we try to coordinate everything. And I say that because when you talk about the defense and the current situation, okay, in my past years, I saw it a lack of real European defense policy. For many years, we didn't have a real European defense policy. And when we talk about the FCAS or Euromail or other projects, has been discussed for many, many, many years. So in the current situation, I think the government is taking conscience that the loss of knowledge, loss of expertise, and loss to implement new ideas together with the things that they can bring from the startup. And then we go behind, well behind of any other country, which at the end of the day, we lose sovereignty. So it looks like that today, the countries, the key countries, are ready to launch all these European projects, which is very important. The FCAS, not only the FCAS, there are several projects in this. And the more important point, in my view, FCAS, Euromal, or any other European project, it will not be done with the current technologies. The cycle to develop the product, this type of complex product, entry into service and start operations is a very long cycle. So we need to find in one side what we're thinking today as an architecture may be completely different in 5 years. Technology evolves in an exponential way. One of the big contributors is the startups, together with the corporates. And that is where I think government and corporates and the startup, they need to be more than ever coordinated, visible. The startup, they need to be visible to bring the ideas to the people that they can integrate those ideas. Corporate, they need to be extremely open to accept that they will not do things like it happened before. And the government, they need to assume a certain level of risk because you cannot guarantee with the current technology the performance that you are going to see in 15 years. So that gave a fantastic opportunities for everybody, provided that we all in the same boat.
You mentioned this kind of still missing unified voice in Europe in the defense sector. From a startup perspective now, and with your experience in the US, what are the key differences for startups developing and selling technologies to corporates in the defense world in Europe and to ones doing the same in the US?
So that is my personal perception, okay? And everybody have the right to completely disagree, okay? But there are different culture in US or in Europe. US by definition is an entrepreneurial, people. Since the day one, they're thinking, because the origin of US and then is people that they want to do something with new ideas in a new country and looking for opportunities. And this ADN, I think, has been established almost as a standard. Here in Europe, we have a different view. We are more somewhere, we know where we are. We are a culture which is maybe more conservative. And our own people, it has tendency to be not as entrepreneurial or aggressive to find success. So that is for me one of the big differences. Another big difference is certainly in US when you do something, it's my perception, you are looking for which market, how much we are going to make, and what it's used for. And you adapt your ideas to the market to sell it and to consolidate your company. Maybe in Europe, we are more intellectual in a way to say, we have an idea, we continue to develop the idea. We have difficulties to see what is the stop point to offer the product. And we forget from time to time that the market, they need to be addressed since the day one and to adapt our product to the market. So I don't say one is better than the other. There are two different approaches. Both of them can be very efficient. But I think in Europe, we need to move faster and be more entrepreneurial and more market-oriented if we want to be successful.
Thanks, Domingo, for your insights on that. And now, mindful of time, unfortunately, we could go on and on about these topics. share and tap your brain on various different questions in this ecosystem. But maybe before now going into and listening to our first startup pitches, finally, maybe your main message or lesson shared, lesson learned, lesson shared, if you want, kind of to the startups which are presented today, to the ones who are tuning in, and all the aspiring entrepreneurs out there developing exciting technologies in the aerospace and defense industry. What do you, what do you would say to them?
For me, I think maybe there are not 1, 2, 3 in this priority. There are maybe some ideas that I can have in my mind. Is one is the ideas that we want to develop thinking about the market first and try to tailor your ideas to the market. Market can evolve like the product, but fix what you want to be addressed. Another idea is fix when your product is going to be show up to the market. We have tendency to continuously develop the product, and we're never thinking to stop, offer the product, and at the end of the day, we are living about the subsidies, but no focus on market and make money and growth. We can continue to develop the product, but please put in the market as soon as possible. And then certainly another thing is management of the company regarding economies, sales department, and commercial department. They need to be part of the beginning of any startup.
Domingo, thanks so much for your insights and thoughts and sharing them with us. It's been a pleasure to have you with us today. And now with that, I'd like to give it over to David, and let's see our first presentations.
Thank you to you. Thank you to you.